The views and opinions expressed on the Craig L. Hayes Show do not necessarily reflect those of Westgate Resort, its management, or ownership. And now, on with the show.
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
All right, Craig L. Hayes back here with Rico Grippo, and we're talking about the early days of Las Vegas. I shouldn't say, our early days in the Union. If we're going to go back to early days, it's 1940-something or other. But 1980, we were both working on different shifts at the MGM Scenery Shop, trying to repair the damage of a fire that took so many lives in that hotel and just, made it so we have to do a complete overhaul of the show that's just been built and is now in there, and it is Black Soot Central. And time to fix it. So what did you do on the night shoot? As an apprentice, I know exactly what you had to do. All the disgusting hard work. And
some of it I had to take with just in strides, If you were the apprentice, you also cleaned the bathroom, you also emptied the trash, and you worked in a lot of different areas, which, unbeknownst to me at the time, was a blessing because you learned different things. There were a lot of people there who had particular talent. For example, I spent some time in what they called the tool shed, where you had to hand out tools for a little trinket that you had to put on a hook and said, oh, that's where this one goes. But once I expanded, got a little bit more experience and started working more with the tools and had people, show me what needed to be done, and joined some of the crews, some of the more senior journeymen that were doing that. You got to eat a little crow, right? Because you're an apprentice, but that's all part of the process of building a better you, in my opinion.
very true. I mean, yeah, you're the lowest of the life forms, basically. If you want to look at it. I mean, and I go back and I go, I had to do the same thing. I'm on the day crew, and it's, hey, grunt, hey, useless POS, get your ass over here, and we got clean up all this mess and get this up, and you just go, yep, get on it. And then you didn't sit there and try to sass back. I mean, you could mess with people back, but don't sass back, and that's basically what I was told. I come from a family, and if you want to look at it, it's almost like royalty, going back from my grandfather, my uncles, and stuff like this. And yet I went in and I took every inch of it. I took every bit of it. Whatever. I knew the game. It was just go in there and
bring it on and do your work.
Bring it on. You guys hit your best shot with me. Come on. I ain't afraid. Let's go. So, but that's what it was. That's what we did. Yeah. Before that, ours was cleaning steel because we were building the show. I mean, I'd spend days cleaning steel so it could be welded, cleaning the oil off of it so that it could be, and use acetone, and rubber gloves and acetone, and you scrub them down, and so that when you weld, the steel doesn't catch on fire from all the oil that's all over them. That's pretty important.
I had a memory. This gentleman by the name of Gordy Muller, and he was a fiberglass guy. And I was told, oh, you need to go and go see Gordy over there in the fiberglass shop. He's got something for you to do. So I go over to the fiberglass shop. Hadn't been there before, didn't know what was going on. And he had a machine, he called it the chopper.
Yep.
And he'd make these molds. I could get into the bit about making a few little rowboats, but that's a different story. But
we all had things made there, believe me.
He had this shop, and it was lined with big, thick visqueen, and it was covered. And that fiberglass went through that chopper, and it chopped up the fiberglass, and it mixed it with the resin, and it spit out the gun. And by the time I got there, he was pretty much through. He was just taking off his whole suit. And he goes, oh, you're here, good. He goes, clean this crap up. Huh? Yeah, clean up. Well, like, what do you mean? He goes, clean up. You know what cleanup is, right? when I come back tomorrow, this is all going to be clean and ready for the next day. So he took his suit off and walked away, and I looked around me and went, there's no way. How can anybody do this? But you learn.
Gordy liked messing with their apprentice. And his buddy was Randy Gordon. I don't know if you remember him. He was a great guy too. But Gordy was great at his job. He was a magician with that fiberglass stuff. He was just incredible. But he liked to, stir up the trouble and mess with people and do stuff. And it is what it is. And before I even went to work at MGM Scenery Shop, I got out of high school on a Friday, had my graduation basically on a Friday, and Monday morning I was out at the MGM Scenery Shop building Jubilee. And before that, I had worked at Design Concepts for Fred Josephs, building Hallelujah Hollywood Hello as one of the shop guys, just building all the, taking care of, basically the same thing. It was a shop guy, but for less money than an apprentice. Making $3-4 an hour instead of $6-7 bucks an hour. Big jump when you became an apprentice. Doing the same stuff. It was like cleaning steel. Okay, all day we'll do this, and yeah. But Gordy liked to mess with you. He liked to just mess with you, and he'd have you do stuff, and you'd go overboard and make the place fun. He goes, I just meant that little mess in the corner, but thanks for cleaning the whole place out. Then he'd laugh at you, and he'd just give you, do it again to you sometime,
That was the nature.
Mm-hmm. But there were some talented people there. I think the nighttime crew, didn't you guys have like Lionel Cunningham and
Yeah, we had Don Langdon.
Don Langdon. That was the name I was trying to remember. Those guys were on the night crew and on the welding, trying to get stuff done. That was an amazing place, man. There was some serious talented people in that place.
Working for Louis Bradfield. He was a master electrician. And
I think he was beyond master. He was like sensei master or whatever,
They were building these light boxes, and one of the technological changes from Hallelujah Hollywood into Jubilee was these huge staircases that would stack up and make, they used to call them like the Busby Berkeley staircases or something, the grand finale staircases, and you had really tall ones, middle ones, low ones, and these light boxes at the bottom there, and the beautiful showgirls would slowly walk down these stairs in those fabulous costumes that they had with little else. And the way the wiring on the back of those light boxes was amazing. You look at it and it looked like art from the backside. And I had the task, but the honor of working on that crew for a little bit and getting reprimanded so many times, like, you need to make this right. It has to be, follow that line. This isn't the easiest way, maybe, but this is the way it's going to be done. And that was the way Louis Bradfield was. Mm-hmm. It had to be right. There was no other option available to you. Do it again. Do it again. Make it right.
Yep. That's what, that's stuff I was talking about when that all had to come back to the shop, and all that stuff that you guys did right, and worked on it, had to be ripped all out and redone right again. Yeah. What a mess. That was, gave a bunch of guys a lot of work, redoing it, but, unfortunately people paid with their lives at that hotel, but.
I didn't feel like I had really arrived at the Stagehands Union until I had completed that apprenticeship, because from that apprenticeship job I went right into the load-in of Jubilee and stayed on that crew until the big strike of, what was it, 84 or 85?
84, yeah.
That's where
April, May of 84, yeah, somewhere in there.
I got my union card through that show, where I became an actual not a referent, but a member of the union. And so began the career that I didn't think I was really going to be in. And that's the way it turned out. It's all because of Loopy and the influence and how things manifested into being at an actual run of a show crew, working as a stagehand full time, having, 4 years of doing shows that, oh, so this is a career. Look at that. That was 43 years ago.
I know. Isn't that just weird when you say that? You go, that was four. I look back and then I go, yeah, I started working out of the hall in 1980. I think it was June 7th or 8th or something like that of 1980 was my first call. 44 going on 45 years. It goes by quick, man. You don't think you see all these old guys that have been, in the hall forever and ever, and they tell you, it goes by quick, guys. Don't waste it. And you're like, I'm 18. This is gonna last forever, man. No, it doesn't. No, it does not. It does not last forever.
Never underestimate the wisdom of an old man.
Yeah. So in '84, did you go back and work at Jubilee after it was after the strike?
No. There was a group of us who
Were you asked not to come back? And
reminds me of high school.
yeah, I was about to say this is I'm seeing a theme here.
Seen a pattern. I was absolutely asked not to come back. There was a group of us, and that's when my stepfather Loopy actually hired me to go over and do the show that was at the Las Vegas Hilton, which was the Bal du Moulin Rouge, and that was my next show. And it's funny how he wouldn't hire me. He would bring me in to do a show change here and there, but it wasn't until I got my A card and my union card that I actually was able to go to work for him as a full-timer.
Yeah. Well, you had to pay your dues.
Yeah.
Loopy and I had a couple little run-ins on a couple of things, but but that's just how the guys were back then, and it didn't bother me. It was like, okay, you're going to be kind of a jerk, whatever. I don't care. But at the same time, that meant something. You paying your dues, putting your time in, getting the experience. He wasn't going to take and make it easy for you. And that's a big thing, needed to be done too. None of my family made it easy for me. My dad made a call for me one time down to the Mint downtown, and he knew the president of that hotel, and they were looking for someone to go run the lounge. And he said, "I'll make a call, but it's going to be on you, and you better take care of business and not make us look bad." Okay. But never hired me anywhere. I don't think my dad, wherever he worked, I never worked for him. Never worked for any of these guys, because it was like, no, you got to go pay your dues somewhere else. You're not going to get it easy.
Yep.
And that's what's so important and missing in so many ways on these things. But looking back, anyways, so how many years was Moulin Rouge here?
I don't know exactly when it started. I came in after the show had already been running for a while. And myself and some of the guys that I work with, I remember Dave Kist, a gentleman I'm still friends with today, and some of these younger guys that got on that show. That juxtaposition between these young guys like myself and some of the other fellas that I would run with and the older crew, it was an interesting dichotomy of having to learn the old ways and still want to be liberated as a youngster and have your own point of view and how you're going to do things. But it was always an honor. And I learned that as a young man, that nobody owed you anything. So if you were going to participate in this event, you needed to appreciate it and realize it was more than a gift. It was something you had to earn to keep.
Yeah.
And I like that. I try to instill that in my kids. I have, 2 kids who are in the union now, and tell them what I learned and pass it on to them.
I think what it is you give them an opportunity and see what they're going to do with it. And hopefully they don't bring anything bad on you, back on you, you know. I only had one kid that ever got in the hall. And he stayed in the hall for 6 months or a year or something like that. And he said, I don't want to do this to my family. And he left and he's never been back. And he did that when he was like 19, 20 years old. And he came in and started working a bit. And he goes, so basically, Dad, if I stay in this, I'm going to get into it and I'll be gone all the time and never see my family, kind of like what you did to all of us. And I'm going to go, welcome to the biz.
That's what it is.
I said, do you want to do that? You have all these gorgeous little grandkids of mine now. Do you want to do that to them? You'll make a great living. You're going to make a lot of money, but you're never going to see them. Or you can make less money and be around your family. He said, bye. Never been prouder of him.
Good.
You know, I was never prouder of him when he said, nope, goodbye, I'm not coming back either. And he hasn't, and that's been years and years and years and years, you know. His family was more important to him. Well, it's like I tell him, I says, that's because you have good kids. I didn't. You look at your kids. You're disgusting. I don't like any of you. So that's why I never was home. Made your mom be around you. You know, you got to build your kids up, you know.
Motivational speeches.
See, thank you very much. I am so good at motivational speeches and stuff. So, you know. No, I was so proud of him when he said, not going to do it, bye. You know, I was like,
It's not for everybody.
yeah, it's not for and that's exactly it. It's everybody think they can do it, but, and most people can do it. Because if you just go out on a call, you can do it. I mean, you got a guy that knows what he's doing. He's going to say, all right, well, take that piece over there and just push it over there and see the wheels on it, put the wheels on it, and I'll show you real quick how to do it, and then just do it again. And, you know, just about anybody can do it. You know, you don't have to have a 130 IQ. But if you're going to be at the top of the food chain, you
Got to bring your A game.
got to be in the A game 24/7 when you're doing this, and try maintaining that for 30 years, or 40 or whatever years, you know. So you got to do the Moulin Rouge. So then you came over. I'm going to say. Where did you go after Moulin Rouge? Because Moulin Rouge had closed. They went back to Star Policy here,
Yep.
if I remember.
And I worked Star Policy for a while in the room.
Okay.
And then it was starting to shrink there with the Star Policy. Did a lot of comedians, step in front of the main, light them up. I wound up taking an opportunity to go over to Siegfried and Roy. And one of the gentlemen that was on the crew originally, I say originally, I'm going back into the mid-'70s when I was first introduced to the Hilton crew and how I, you know, met Loopy and how he became an influence in my life. And it was a fellow by the name of Ernie Lee. Ernie Lee was a longtime stagehand with that crew under, you know, Dick Lane, Loopy, and whatnot. And he had a son named Brian, and Brian was on the electric crew over at Siegfried and Roy, and I had an opportunity to go over there. They needed an electrician over there, and I filled that position. And I stayed with them until such time as they moved over to the Mirage, Siegfried and Roy. I think after they closed the show at the Frontier Hotel, where they were there for many years, they did a Japanese tour, and then when they got back from Japan, they went over to Steve Wynn at the Mirage. And at that point, I was another stagehand looking for another place to go land. And back in that time, the entertainment business was still the predominant amount of work that was being done through Local 720. It was theater, showrooms, lounges. And slowly this progression into the commercial work that they do in the convention business and taking that technology of lighting and rigging over into the convention areas, that took time for that to build. But back in that day, now I'm talking about late 80s into the 90s,
Yeah, early 90s, yeah, exactly.
we were still doing theater work. And
Well, it's because 720 basically had the whole town except for a couple properties locked up,
yeah,
and then the change.
the change.
The change. A couple things happened. If you really want to look at it, a couple things happened. Showrooms changed. They weren't doing 12 shows a week anymore. They were doing, some of them would do 10 if they were lucky. Production shows would do 10. But stars would do one show a night. And they weren't doing them 6, 7 nights a week. They were doing them 3, 4, 5 nights a week, And then, like you say, the convention work took off. And then they started tearing down these buildings that we had work in and building new ones we didn't have work in. So there's like this multiple things were going on, and not a whole lot of 720 showrooms left in this town anymore.
Yeah. And just the mentality of Vegas, Vegas is known for always reinventing itself, depending on what's going on in the world. And the United States had a mentality. Everything was changing. Technology was changing. The leaps in computers and how movies have turned into, CGI and everything that was just advancing with technology, I think made a shift into the town, because in my early days, it was about entertainment, bringing people in so that the casino made money.
Yeah.
And that changed. Everybody had to now, through their department, be a profit center. Things changed.
Yeah. You have to show a profit in every department. Well, how does engineering show a profit?
Yeah.
There's no customers. You got to go fix a sink or a toilet or a broken air conditioner, or how does security turn the mentality when the accountants basically took over, and it just went from you just had to scratch your head and go, these guys obviously are very smart. They graduated from Harvard Business School or something like that, so they understand business stuff like this, but they don't understand Vegas.
Roger that.
That's the difference. The mob, none of those guys ever went to Harvard Business School, but they understood Vegas.
They had a degree from the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, and they couldn't hide the money fast enough what they were making. So now it's different things. Different things going on in this city. We've watched a lot of it. We've watched over the last few years bigger changes to what Vegas has become now. We're still the entertainment capital of the world, but we're also becoming close, I think, to convention capital of the world. I don't think there's too many other cities that have more convention facilities than we do. So, and boy, we'll talk about some of that on the convention side, in a while. I never liked doing conventions. I like showrooms. I've always liked showrooms. Or lounges. I like doing lounges too. They're fun. So then I think it was somewhere around the 88, 89, well, it had to be around 89 or so, that Siegfried and Roy closed their shop up. And you wandered on over to
the Riviera.
Doing Splash. And I'd only been there, I think, about a year or so. Maybe, right about that time. Somewhere in that vicinity, because I was doing Splash 6 nights a week, 2 shows a night. I'd get off at midnight, show it at midnight, and I had to be at 12:30. I had to be over to the Mirage for the load-in of Siegfried and Roy. And I'd stay there till noon the next day. Did that 7 days a week.
Those are the days. Huh?
Oh, man. I was working to save up for a house is what I was doing. I was like, never been so tired in my life. And after about a month of that, I was like, I'm done. I got my money from my house. I don't need this anymore. Walking zombie. So. Splash. Was that an interesting show or what?
Feel the magic come alive.
Yeah. Boy, the stories in that place were. Oh, yeah, we're going to talk some about that.
At
won't
5
talk to
years
him
at Splash.
We're not going to talk to him right here on this one. We're going to talk on the next episode because we're already at the end of this episode. Goes pretty quick, doesn't it?
It goes quick, but it's enjoyable.
Yeah,
Great stories.
yeah. It would have, I'm having a good time with this as the walk down memory lane. Anyhow, that's the end of this episode. So Talbot, take it.
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
Take a minute to get out of the water. Need to use restroom or anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Let me get my glasses on. Do this real quick.
You said you had somebody coming to see you. When are they coming?
2:30 is theirs. It's Talbot. We're doing more memory lane with him too on some stuff. And we already did a few of his. He had to come back. We had so much it had to.
Do you want to call this a day and set up another time?
No, let's do one more episode. Let's get through Splash. We'll do some Splash on the next episode. Then we'll figure out another time for another one to come in and do the rest. See, that's what I'm saying. Everyone always thinks I can't fill a half hour.
You have no idea.
I
I didn't see it happening.